What the history?
Biblical proportion.
The Cult of Reason. This episode is going to be a bit more Bible adjacent, but it is important to talk about nonetheless. It is the Cult of Reason. I know you might be thinking, why is a show about biblical miracles and history talking about a cult? There's a quick answer to that, but also a deeper dive to it, which we'll get into. Long story short, the French Revolution was crazy. Things escalated quickly, to say the least.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
After the French Revolution started in 1789, France revolted not only from kings and queens and royalty, but also from their state religion of Catholicism. And this led them to establish the first state-sponsored atheistic religion, the Cult of Reason. We were, after all, in the age of enlightenment at that time, where every man thought himself to know the ways of right and wrong without any underlying attachment to Christian morals or teachings, or so they thought. Not realizing they got their logic and reason from God in the first place, and left to their own devices, the French turned their Catholic church buildings into worship centers called temples of reason. The main proponent of this idea was Antoine Francois Montmoreau, a French politician who helped facilitate this new life after bloody revolution. His stated goal for this new religion sought the perfection of man through truth and liberty, and the guiding principle in all of this was, you guessed it, the exercise of reason. Eventually, this new French government would literally erect giant idols of a man-made manifestation of this belief, the goddess of reason, throughout the country's church buildings, even including the well-known Notre Dame Cathedral. They encouraged congregational worship and devotional displays to this ideal of reason, and even held feasts in honor of it. Which all sounds like a familiar story from a few thousand years ago, doesn't it? Exodus chapter 32, verse 2. Aaron answered them, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing, and bring them to me." So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then he said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." Mark Twain said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." And after the French royal family were beheaded and or banished from French life, a vacuum was created. The book of Judges illustrates this point with the ancient Israelites. Judges 21:25. In those days, Israel had no king, and everyone did as they saw fit. See, like most man-made religions, unlike the true and living God, about a year later, the Cult of Reason was quickly cannibalized by another opportunist group, which formed the cult of the Supreme Being. This one added a softer stance toward a deist religion to make people feel a bit more comfortable, because a Supreme Being cult at least acknowledged a maker of some kind. All this to say, the man has always tried to reinvent the wheel, circumnavigate the scriptures, and create for himself his own gods or goddesses. This all started in the Garden of Eden when the serpent told Adam and Eve, "Ye shall be as gods," if they were to eat of the forbidden fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It never ends well after that. Everyone is religious, only some of us worship the one true God. What the history?
Biblical proportion.